This is Newcastle's main rail corridor, and just ahead of me down there, if you can see where I'm pointing, is where the Burwood line would come across, the train line, probably at a higher level. And up the back there, you can see a white building with arched windows, looks Spanish style. Just this side of that is this where the train line used to run around the base of the hill over there. And it would come and it would cross through, just down here it would come through as a high line coming across Hunter Street and across this main rail line along what's called Crown Street. Over there is Burwood Street and a little building called the Frederick Ash Building, which dates back to the mid-1800s. And right across the front of that building there, which is the tax office and the Telstra building, we imagine a high line coming through at about 4.5 metres of height and coming right across the street here and meeting up with the harbour. So there's Burwood Street over there, and it goes straight through to Civic Park, and in a straight line. Actually, it goes all the way to the junction, which is quite remarkable. And it would be coming across us right here, and this is the train line. It would come right across the train line there and shoot through to the harbour. Meanwhile, up here at Crown Street, which is the next street up, whoops, let's just get up there, shall we? Crown Street, which is the next street up, is where the old Australian agricultural line came across. So let me just get you up to there to save editing later. And of course we need to get across Hunter Street here because it's a mongrel of a thing. Everyone talks about Hunter Street being the big divide. Sorry, everyone talks about the train line being the big divide between the city and the harbour. Well, come on folks, it's this street here with all of this wretched traffic. So somehow our high line needs to go, I guess, between some of these glass buildings over here. Pick one of those gaps, but it comes across Crown Street. That's where it originally ran, and the old building over there is visible in old photos that we've got, with the High Line coming across in front of it. The picture theatre, which is on the other side of the street there, wasn't there, but I think we're going to have to be creative and not demolish that. So this High Line I'm talking about would actually have to go over the street here where I'm riding at the moment, because this picture theatre and this other buildings have been built where it originally ran. And see this cutting here? This is where it used to run. It turned into a high line as it came off of that earth there. And that's where we're about to go now, up to the top of that retaining wall. And we'll see how this bank at the bottom of the hill was a route for trains, and we're going to turn it into a route for cyclists that flies over the top here and down to Crown Street where we just came through. Okay, so up ahead I'm riding along this higher plane just above King Street, and this is where the old train line used to run, Australia's oldest 1830 something Australian agricultural company. And so we want to head off down over the street down there and link up with Crown Street. Looking back this way though, back this way, what we want to do is ride along until we get to this hill down here, and there's a very steep hill that links up to Church Street up the top up there, and we think a bicycle lift that just takes 2 carriages back and forth up there would be wonderful. And also develop that hillside there with very dense affordable housing would be a nice idea, wouldn't it? And here we don't want to actually go downhill. The track used to actually turn left here and stay on this plane, but we would like to stay at this elevated level at least until we cross the street there and get onto Civic Park. And at Civic Park we'll have some bridge structures. Let's go down there and have a look, shall we?
So here we are in Civic Park, which was once the crossing point of quite a few railways running up to the old coal mines. So the intention is to have our elevated cycleway coming across from where Crown Street, the embankment, and gently coming down through an elevated structure over the road into Civic Park, where it meets a crossing of the old railway lines. And connects out to the suburbs.
We've got Burwood Street over there. It'll be coming as a high line across King Street there.
And then we've got the old Australian Agricultural Company line, which ran right across. There's now the park here, heading out west through into the city and into the suburbs.
So let's go over to the point where we think the Ag line and the Burwood line crossed, Angus.
All right.
Just over here there's a little old cottage which is on a funny angle and it sits in the park. It's at a funny angle because the agricultural line ran right in front of it, and in behind it ran the Burwood line, which came in underneath the street here. So we're sitting right at the moment at that key intersection between a railway, one up to the valley and one down south of Newcastle. And this is where our bike path will really kind of, the confluence of those two routes will join up, and somewhere in the middle of the park there turn into a high line which will go across Burwood Street and up parallel to King Street. To my mind, this section of Civic Park would truly be graced by a modern structure that recalls that fabulous history, industrial history that we've got, suddenly turning into a high line about here, picking up, going up between the roundhouse there and beside the Frederick Ash building, it's called, down along Burwood Street, but also picking up and travelling, you know, it could be a really elegant serpentine kind of route across the park here, wrapping around up the side of that building on the corner of King Street and Derby Street, where I'm heading at the moment, and meeting up with that cutting that runs up the side of that bank up there. Next bit of footage we'll show you will be from the top of that bank looking down. It's a little bit hard to see anything more than there's McCormack Street and Church Street. So McCormack goes down that way, Church up that way. And there's a switchback path and some stairs down to the level of King Street and the spot where we're going to have our bicycle trail down there. And yeah,
across to Burwood. You can see across to where the old Burwood line used to cross down there next to that Sawtooth building with the big windows. And that's the old line of the railway line coming up past Telstra and past the tax office back into Civic Park.
Yeah, if we had a lift here, I think it'd be a marvellous way of connecting all the residents on the hill, and there are quite a few, it's a densely populated area, connecting the residents on the hill to our bicycle network. They could come up in the lift and they could ride the switchback trail back down. They'd love it.